Listen, so me and Mona had a talk and we decided it's time to give you guys an updated guide. Hello everybody, my name's Hydrosam. I make waifu or meta content, and in today's video, we're gonna be giving you an updated Mona guide. Man, it's been a while. I believe it's been like 5 or 6 months since I made a guide, and I believe with the 1 year anniversary of Genshin Impact coming up, I believe it's time for me to just go ahead and put everything I know about the characters since I've been using her since like day 1 of Genshin Impact. So in this guide, I'm going to try and make it as fast and concise as possible. If there's ever a topic that needs more detail, I will link videos that I've made in the past, or I will link videos from fellow content creators that will give you more in-depth detail on that particular topic about Mona, because Mona is a complicated character, but we're going to try to make this guide as simple as possible. And in this video, we're going to go over Mona's kit as a whole. We're going to go over her best weapons, her best artifacts, and the different teams that she's most popular on. And before we get into it, I want to say that I do stream on twitch.tv/Hydrosam. I would appreciate your follow there, so that way we can talk about waifus and just hang out, and you can support the content there as well. And I appreciate every subscriber who has gotten me to this point. I know I owe a lot of it to Mona, and I do really love this character, guys. And because I love her so much, I don't want to burn out on her. So that's why sometimes I try to make content that's not about Mona. And for those of you that support that content as well, guys, I appreciate it. You guys are the best. And I would love to see you guys just keep supporting my channel and my journey in this Genshin Impact community. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. So let's go ahead and talk about Mona's normal attack first. She performs up to 4 water splash attacks that deal hydro damage. Basically, all of her attacks are going to be hydro damage, guys. So just letting you all know that real quick. Here are her percentages for each hit. Her 4th one has the highest one, but it does have an animation at the end. Her charge attack is going to be the biggest attraction from her normal attacks. So the most optimal combo is going to be 2 normal attacks into a charge attack, and you rinse and repeat that, and that's going to give you the most optimal damage for Mona. So Mirror Reflection of Doom is a good elemental skill. It's good for taking the aggro off of Mona and putting it onto the elemental skill. It has a pretty good range and will lock on to the nearest enemy. It's going to tick 5 times before it does its final explosion damage. And if you hold it, Mona will dash backwards, leaving the mirror where Mona started her hold elemental skill. Okay, so now we go to the elemental burst, which kind of confuses a lot of people who aren't used to Mona. So you can read it if you want, but here's the gist. If there's enemies that don't have any type of elemental application on them, so what Mona's going to do is she's going to cast it as an AoE type of field. She's going to apply the wet status onto the enemies and trap them in the bubble. This does not do damage. It's going to trap them for a total of 8 seconds if you choose not to hit them at all. After 8 seconds, the bubble will do an explosion of whatever percentage is your skill. So in my case, 796%. I believe this is the 4th or 5th highest in the game. And then after the bubble pops, the omen will linger for a total of 5 seconds. So another thing about the bubble is that it will pop with any type of knockback that those enemies receive. So in talking about the omen is applied as soon as they are trapped in the bubble. There are enemies in the game that have a time period of where they can't receive any type of knockback. And for those enemies, if you hit them while her bubble is on them, they will receive that extra damage bonus onto them. You can think of the damage bonus as your main DPS or whoever's attacking getting an extra pyro damage bonus, physical damage bonus, or hydro damage bonus. Just think of it like that. If you want more details of how stagger resistant works, Lacola made a great video, and I'll show you the thumbnail here and the card with it, so that way you can go to that video if you want a more in-depth guide in that particular topic. But that's pretty much it with her elemental burst. Now if we jump into Mona's passive skills, her sprint just makes her travel in water, and when she comes out, she'll apply the wet status onto enemies, and she can traverse over oceans, which is pretty good for traveling. Come Get Me Hag it's there. If she's in a sprint and there's enemies around, every 2 seconds she will spawn a little mini Mirror Reflection of Doom that will do half of the damage that's based on your elemental skill damage. Waterborne Destiny is probably one of the best things that makes Mona really good. After you get this passive talent, Mona gets an increased hydro damage bonus based on 20% of her energy recharge rate. And her last one is whenever she crafts weapon ascension material, she has a 25% chance of a refund. It's pretty useful actually. If we jump to her constellations, the first good constellation that she has is Prophecy of Submersion. So when any of your characters hit an opponent that's affected by the omen, for 8 seconds you will get an increase in electrocharge, vaporize, hydro, and frozen durations. So anything that has to do with a hydro element, you will receive those buffs. Now, a thing to note is that this 8-second timer does reset every time you hit an opponent that's affected by the bubble. And I have made a video that goes more into detail of Mona C1 that you may not know. And I'll show it right here and give you the card and a link so you can go to that video if you want to check out more details, just in case you have C1 and don't know what I mean. C2 is my favorite constellation of Mona. It makes her a more viable main DPS. Now, it doesn't make her completely broken because well, it's only a 20% chance and only occurs once every 5 seconds. I wish they buffed it more, but you know, it does make her more of a viable main DPS, or even just a better sub DPS in general. Actually, C3 is awesome because you get to upgrade your elemental burst first. C4 is probably her last good constellation, so whenever any party member attacks an opponent affected by the omen, their crit rate increases by 15%, and that's pretty big. I don't have it yet, but I can imagine it just does wonders for your team. C5 just increases your mirror reflection of doom. C6 is kind of meh. It just lets you do some kind of charge attack shenanigans. I don't really like it because you have to be in her sprint in order to get those stacks, and when doing Spiral Abyss or something else, like, you're not really in Mona sprint for like more than a second, so I don't really see this being good. I wish they had done something else for her charge attacks. I feel like, you know, they could have done better with these constellations, but that's just my opinion, and I'm just biased because I just want her to be a more viable DPS, but it is what it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and transition to talking about Mona's weapons. You may notice that I separated into 3 categories. We have burst spam and DPS and I don't have a sub DPS because I think main DPS and sub DPS go in the same category, because DPS is DPS at the end of the day, whether it's off field or on field DPS. If you want the most damage, these are the weapons that we're going to go over. So let's go ahead and talk about the DPS weapons first. In my opinion, the best consistent weapons are the Skyward Atlas and the Memory of Dust, which I've marked here side by side. Skyward Atlas can fit any situation, and Memory of Dust is really good, especially if you have like a shield comp, maybe with a Zhongli or something like that. Then I put Wit Sith right here, number 3, because if you can get the right buff, whether it's the elemental damage bonus or the attack bonus, it can compete against these 5-star weapons and can even out damage Lost Prayer Seika Winds. Then I have Lost Prayer to Seika Winds. Even though it doesn't pump out as much damage as the top 3, it's really good because it's the only 5-star weapon that actually has a crit rate substat at the time of making this video, of course. Then I put the 2 other 4-star weapons that have a crit rate and crit damage substat. So the Black Cliff Gate is really good for a main DPS Mona. Then we got the Solar Pro as well. These weapons can help you out balance out your stats for your Mona as far as crit damage and crit rate ratio. Then a recent free-to-play weapon that we all got in the Klee event is the Dodico Tails, and I made a video on it showcasing its damage potential, and it's pretty good. It's probably the best free-to-play weapon you can get for a main DPS type of Mona. Then for the last 2, I have the Wine and Song and the Eye of Perception, but these are all viable as far as main or sub DPS Mona. Now in the category of burst spam, the whole point is to try to get your burst out consistently as much as possible, and all these weapons will help out a burst spam type of build for Mona. Pavonius Codex is at the top because of those particles that you can get from its passive. It really helps get your Mona's burst out consistently, burst after burst after burst. Then Wine and Song because it does have an energy recharge substat, and it's pretty easy to get that attack buff from the weapon, so it can boost up your Mona's damage for your elemental burst. Now I did put Solar Pro on the burst spam category because it's passive and it can help you boost up your elemental burst damage, and the crit rate is really nice so you can get consistent good damage. And then at the last here is the recently new Inazuma craftable weapon, the Hakushin Ring. Yes, I know, if you don't want to sacrifice Kagari Ring, don't do it, but if you do, it's really good, especially for an electric charge Mona, and the energy recharge substat can help you out for more energy recharge and more burst spamminess. The last ones are I really don't think the Map of Mare is that good. I think you should only use it if you're building some type of vaporized Mona, but other than that, I don't really like it. I know there's not that many free-to-play options, and if you missed the Dodico Tails, well, you missed it, but that one was a really good option for free-to-play. Sacrificial Phalanx does not work on Mona. It's just not good. You can only have 1 mirror reflection of doom at one time, so it's not worth it. And then Prototype Amber is not a fit for Mona because it's more for like a healer or a Barbara or something. But that's how I rank the weapons, guys. Now we're gonna move on to artifacts. So for our artifacts, I did separate it into 3 different categories. Now, no artifacts are set in stone because like I've said before, it's always substats over set bonuses. And what I'm showing you right now is like if you have perfect stats, and the most optimal sets would be these. So for burst spam, you're gonna go with either a 4-piece Noblesse or a 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate, which is a new artifact set that came out in Inazuma. The difference between these 2 is that Noblesse can help enhance your team's damage. In case you don't have a character on your team that has a 4-piece Noblesse, you can go ahead and put it on Mona, and it's really good for burst spam. 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate is more of a selfish support because it will only enhance Mona's damage due to her energy recharge. It won't give any type of boost to your team, but both of them are really good for your burst spam role. Main DPS, of course, you're gonna go with the 4-piece Heart of Death, and remember, main DPS, in my opinion, means that the character who's gonna be out there on the field doing the most normal and charge attacks and all that kind of stuff. So if you really want to make Mona a main DPS, this would be the way to go if you want to take advantage of her normal and charge attacks. You can also go ahead with a 2-piece Heart of Death, 2-piece Gladiator if you want like an overall damage boost for the entirety of Mona's kit. Then I put Heart of Death and Noblesse together, and it kind of fuses into the sub DPS. And I did that on purpose because you can also use this as a main DPS because Mona's burst is a big part of her kit. I have personally run this and it's really good, but it can also work as a sub DPS as well. Then we also have a 2-piece Noblesse, 2-piece Wanderer's Troop in case you want to do like a vaporized burst support Mona to fill that role on your team. But once again, the set that takes the cake is the 4-piece Emblem of Absurd Fate. If you can optimize this set, it will give you the most damage. Basically, it's going to give you the best bang for your buck in terms of damage, and Mona can really take advantage of this, especially in a sub DPS role where you're only using her burst for damage. Now, building Mona is like building any other character in Genshin Impact. You try to get as many balanced substats as you can as far as crit rate, crit damage. And I will say right now that the most quote-unquote optimal energy recharge you would want on your Mona is 160% energy recharge. Honestly, in my opinion, if you at least have 150, that's fine. And one of the biggest questions when building Mona is, should I go for an attack percent piece? Should I go for an energy recharge piece because of her hydro damage bonus? Or should I go for EM? And I made a video a while back kind of showing the damage comparisons between vaporized and non-vaporized damage for all 3 pieces. So if you really want to see a more detailed explanation, go ahead and check out that video. Basically, you should only use EM if you're going for a vaporized build, whether it's vaporized support or vaporized DPS. Almost all the time, you should always go for an attack percent piece for like basically everything else. You only go for an energy recharge piece if you're going for a burst spam build, or your energy recharge is literally like bottom of the bottom and you have like everything else stacked in your substats. But that's pretty much it for the Sans piece and how to build Mona. Now it's just up to you to choose what kind of build you want from the artifacts and weapons to fit the role on your team. When talking about what are the best teams that Mona fits on, there's 3 of them. There's Freeze Control, also known as Morgana to some part of the community. The main builds you want to pick for that Freeze team is either a burst spam Mona or a DPS Mona, depending on what you want. And the reason it's so popular is because you want her Omen to be extended and be abused by your main cryo DPS. And here's like a little short combo that you can use, or maybe you've already seen.
Blaze over. Decided by destiny. Let me scry. Access denied.
The second team is a Vaporized team because Vaporize is one of the strongest reactions in the game. If you can take advantage of Vaporize with Mona, it is one of the best teams for Mona that you can use for her. The thing is, over the time that the Abyss has developed, it's been harder and harder to kind of utilize Mona Vaporize as a main DPS, but it definitely still is possible and can be one of the strongest Mona teams in the whole game. And this is where you want to focus a little bit more effort in your EM, whether it be the Sans piece or using a 2-piece Wanderers and a 2-piece Hydro. Also, I'm about to show you one of the most popular 2-character low maintenance combos that you can do with Vaporized Mona, which involves Bennett. If you want to learn more about the Vaporized mechanic, I have a video that shows different setups for Mona's Vaporized burst, and then Lacola also has a couple of videos that goes more into detail on the Vaporized mechanic as well. So I'll leave those in the card or in the description below. But basically the gist is you apply Pyro, then you do Mona's burst. Mona's burst will take away the Pyro, which will cause a Vaporize. You gotta wait 2 seconds for the ICD, which is an internal cooldown in the game. Once those 2 seconds are over, then you pop the bubble with a pyro attack. And if you do it correctly and you get a critical hit, you should see a huge number as compared to something you wouldn't see if you pop the bubble earlier than 2 seconds. Last team that I want to mention is Electrocharge. This is probably the easiest team that you can use Mona as a main DPS. The most popular Electrocharge team for Mona is Mona, Fischl, Beidou, and Bennett. Those are a lot of free-to-play friendly characters, and if you build them up correctly, you can enhance your Mona's damage and just create a bunch of Electrocharge reactions, which is focused on damage over time rather than huge numbers like Vaporize or something like that. And of course, the build that you'd want to use for that team is a main DPS build. And that's pretty much all the teams that Mona is most popularly used on. So that's pretty much for the video. This is the simplest that I could put Mona in a guide. I'm sorry I referenced a lot of videos if you want to go more in depth, but if you really want to dive deep into the mechanics, I suggest you watch those videos that I recommended throughout the whole guide. And that's pretty much it. You already know I love Mona. I love her as a freaking character. She's the best. The one that started the waifu over meta on this channel, and I'm just glad I'm able to play her in this game. Remember to like and subscribe, guys, to help support the channel. Follow my Twitch in the description below, and a huge happy birthday to Mona. I love y'all so much, and remember, waifu over meta, and I'll see you in the next video.